Well, welcome everyone. I'm going to start things rolling. My name is Bill Fanning. I'm the CEO of Talk and really excited to be here and have this conversation going. I've invited a friend of mine named James Ellis to join us today to talk about employer branding and the unique aspects of employer branding that, for me, were really essential. And just from my standpoint, employer branding always gave me a perception of the market of somebody spending hundreds of thousands of dollars with multiple consultants and creating some unique, amazingly strategic thing that only the Fortune 100 do. And what I've learned is that's the farthest thing from the truth when it comes to employer branding, and the accessibility of building an amazing brand is available to all of us. And again, I have come from a world of sales and marketing and operations and product where that my perspective of brand was shaped by that market. So I'm really excited to have James here and speak to us. I was going to just turn it over, introduce him. Our topic today is pretty simple, I think, for us to spend some time on. Um, for background, James has his own consultancy called Employer Brand Labs. He's a chief brand builder and has been doing this for, I don't know, I'm not going to put a date on you, James.
It's been a while. I'm
It's
old.
been a while. So, but it's gonna be awesome, and I'm excited to have this discussion. And so our approach to this is really just to James has put some stuff together, and we're gonna hopefully have it be very interactive, and love to hear from each of you as we go through this, how the content resonates with you, some of the challenges you've had around branding, and have a really powerful discussion. So I'm really excited. So with that, I am going to let James introduce himself and kind of pass the lead to him. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, James, and allow you to share yours, and we can start going through some of the topics and get rolling.
Sounds good. Hey, everybody, and welcome to all the bots that people have already associated to their Zoom accounts. Hey, AI, hey, machine. How lovely to meet you all. So as I find the buttons to allow me to share my screen, I'm vamping. I had a change of heart. I know the presentation was ostensibly about this idea of running to standstill. And the more I thought about it, I have a whole presentation involving a lot of Alice in Wonderland references. And I realized there was a better way to distill it, because what you really care about is not how clever my Lewis Carroll jokes are. I don't even care about how clever my Lewis Carroll jokes are. But what you really care about is no bullshit employer brand. That is, most of you think employer brand has some level of bullshit, some 10% of bullshit. By the way, there may be some swearing in this. We'll see how that goes. And I want to kind of change your mind. So I've got a 20-minute deck. I promise not to go more than 20 minutes to try and change your mind, to help you understand that employer brand has a huge impact on literally every company that takes advantage of it. So we're going to kick off with the first interactive portion, and that is open up your chat window. And I just want you to type in the first one or two words of what you think of when you think of employer brand, your perceptions, your impressions, positive or negative or neutral or somewhere in between. Just jump into the chat and give me one or two words of what you think about as employer brand. And Crystal has already become my favorite person. That is a great one. EVP, marketing, canned, mission statement. Ooh, mission statement. Okay. Photos. Photos of high-fiving people. Oh, I love it. It is the equivalent of the women laughing while eating salad. Does everybody remember that meme from 10 years ago? That was a classic. There were Halloween costumes. Getty Images, Brandon, get mean. Brandon, get mean with Getty Images. Way to attract talent. Public image, contrived. Interesting. Fake. Love that, Bill. Thanks for being honest. Internal, external perception, logo, staged. Okay, this is great. This is, if you can believe it, this is actually great, because I don't have a crystal ball, so I could not have guessed what everybody was going to say. But I have talked about employer branding for 10 years. I don't let the baby face fool you. I've been doing this a while. And I've heard a lot of different responses to the question. And I'm going to share a couple with you. because everybody knows an employer brand is incredibly complicated. It's expensive. It's impossible to measure. There's no way to know the ROI of employer brand. It is mystical. It is near religious in its faith that it works. It requires magical special skills, usually done by people called gurus who wear saffron robes and come down from mountains and read the entrails of the chickens to determine what your employer brand might be, right? It's only for big companies. I think I saw that somewhere. It's a fad. Yeah, 31 years. It's a fad. Okay, we'll just keep going. It's expensive. I've heard that somewhere before. It's fluffy. And then, this one hurts. Marketing light. I think I saw something very similar in your responses. That literally hurts. That is literally painful. And it's only for cool companies, which is ironic because cool companies don't really need employer brand like uncool companies do. And of course, some people think it's expensive. I don't know if that's come through to you. So my hope is in the next 20 minutes, I change your mind, because this is not what employer brand really and truly is. The problem is that's not true. That's exactly what employer brand is. And there's a reason you have all these perceptions that it is fluffy and contrived and canned and it's all this stuff, because we've been doing it wrong. So I want to ask the question, whoops, clicking things. What would employer branding actually look like if none of that were true? That if in fact we're impactful, valuable, measurable, directly relatable to every single company, not marketing light, not fluffy, but making a real impact. What would that employer brand look like? And that's the question we're going to answer over the next couple of minutes. So here's me. Here's James Ellis. That's my smiling face. There's no AI in that particular photo. I vacillate back and forth using the AI photo or not, whether I'm standing in a street corner somewhere with the glowing lights just slowly phased out behind me, right? Everybody has that photo. We've all spent the $20 to get that photo. It's a lot of fun. It's not me. I don't know who that guy is, but it's not me. I do employer brand. It's what I do. It's what I write about. I've written 4 books about the subject. I have a long-running newsletter about the subject, which you can subscribe to if you go to the Change Agent News or scan the QR code. It's free. I have been talking about doing, writing about, podcasting about, what you name it, for a long time. I am absolutely 100% obsessed with employer brand. And I hope that you'll start to see why at the end of this short presentation. So let's start by getting clear, because I have long made the point that anybody who tries to talk about employer brand, or more importantly, sell you employer brand without describing or defining the terms, is totally grabbing you by the ankles and shaking you till all the change falls out of your pocket. That's all you are. You're a piñata with money. Congratulations. Let's make this super clear. Employer brand is what someone, an individual, think it's like to work there. That's it. Now, the fact that it's an individual perception means 2 very important things. One, our perceptions will be different, but we're both right. What we think of what it's like to work at Apple, it's going to be very different, but we're both right because it's our own internal perceptions. And that also means that perception, that brand, lives in people's heads. And that's the only place it lives. Anybody who sells you an employer brand, I'm not sure exactly what they're delivering. I hope it's not a bag of brains. I really hope it's not. That would be weird. That's a whole other conversation. I got Adam to smile. All right. So employer branding is the act of influencing that perception. How do I change your mind about what it's like to work at Apple, which at this point is a lot of work? But that's what the job is. How do I influence? And I can use all sorts of things at my disposal, but my goal is to influence people's perception. That's all. That's all. Because the purpose of all of this nonsense is to make great people, and by great people, I don't mean generically great people. I mean great people for you, to make those great people want to work for you, right? This isn't about a popularity contest. This isn't about making the world love you. This is about the handful or dozens or hundreds of people who you actually want to hire want to work for you and ignoring everybody else, maybe even actively pushing them away. So in terms of actively trying to attract people, we talk in terms of what do we offer. I saw EVP was on the list, the value proposition. What do we offer, the value we offer candidates? And you may see some of these perhaps in other people's websites, perhaps in your own websites. This is just a generic list of things I see in lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of companies. Perhaps some people are having that moment of revelation. I'm not in your mind. This is just what lots of people say. Now, a couple of these are horrible. First off, they're all bullshit. They're just flat out bullshit. What exactly does great culture mean? Because Goldman Sachs has a great culture. So does the post office. provided you want stability. So who has a great culture? They both do. So it means nothing. Congratulations. The idea that it's great people. Okay, what happens when they quit? Well, who's the company then? We're values driven. That means nothing. So we have opportunity. Okay, here's the deal. What I think of as opportunity or innovation or strategy or what or support is not what you think it is. And since you haven't defined anything, you haven't described anything in any real meaningful way, what the hell are you saying? My favorite is one at the bottom I haven't shown yet because it is so, so ugly. You'll realize, working here, you'll realize your full potential. As if someone has scanned my brain and my soul and measured my full worth and said, I know your full potential and only I can make it happen. And that sounds insane. That sounds insane. I saw that on an actual website. The insanity. This isn't employer branding. This is employer blanding. Saying some nice stuff because we think that's what we're supposed to be more attractive, whatever the heck that means, to more people, as if that's useful to you, by saying generally boring, positive platitudes. That's what we think employer branding is. By the way, that's why employer branding sucks. That's why most employer brand implementations are incredibly weak, incredibly fluffy, hard to measure, all the stuff that you've said before. It's true, and this is why. So, if you want to fix that, we start with your audience, our candidates, and what do they really want? What do they really want to know? Now, companies like Universum will sell you all sorts of data on what candidates really want, but it really boils down to three simple ideas. What is the goal? What is the purpose of this company? What is the particular dent in the universe they're trying to make if we want to go full on Steve Jobsian, right? What are we doing? Why? What is the purpose here? What are we doing? Second, what's the experience? How are we working together? How are we achieving this goal? And finally, what do we get when we get there? Real simple. What are we doing? How do we do it? What do we get when we're done? Not complicated. It's real simple. This is all candidates want. You can pack these three buckets this way. So the goal is the mission, the purpose, the goal, rather the all that stuff. It's very important stuff. It's not specifically a socially responsible goal. Do not assume if you're a company that's trying to change tires that you have some sort of socially responsible goal. No, your goal is to change tires effectively and efficiently for customers. That's your purpose. That is what the company is for. If you are the Red Cross, then you have a nice socially responsible goal and good for you, and you should use that. But if that's not what your company's all about, don't. Simple as that, because you have other things that are interesting, like your experience. That means your culture, your management style, your work-life balance, your support, your autonomy, your opportunity. That list goes on and on and on. What do you offer people on the day-to-day? And finally, reward isn't just salary and bonus, though let's be fair, that matters. It's the status you offer. It's the professional development you offer. It's the promotion you offer. All of these things are the reward for doing great work. Now, what does that look like? Well, here's some companies that have found places in which they can be interesting, right? World Wildlife Federation obviously is big on goal. So is SpaceX, because they're the ones going to Mars. Now, SpaceX is a great example because 4 years ago, Universum did a whole big survey on what engineering candidates wanted. And what they all wanted was work-life balance, supportive management, and time to grow. Where did they all want to work? SpaceX, where they got none of that. Explain that to me, please. Because in the end, they wanted something that only SpaceX offered, and that was the chance to be a part of the mission to Mars. Simple as that. Because the experience sucks. Gotta having to work for the melon? Come on. That sucks. That's horrible, right? The reward, they didn't pay very well. And certainly you're not getting, you might have some status, but you're working so hard, you don't have time to enjoy it. But that's where they found their point of differentiation. That's the thing that they said, this is what matters. Pinterest is all about empowerment. You can see it in everything they talk about on their career site, on their social, on their job postings. They're empowering their people. So if you want empowerment, you got to put Pinterest on the list. If you want to impress people, it's Netflix. If you want cash, it's Goldman Sachs. Everybody has a different thing they can talk about, what sets them apart. Because we're not trying to get people to think we're positive. We're not getting people to think we're attractive or a wonderful place to work, but to get them to choose us over other companies. Okay? So what our goal here is to figure out what's the one, maybe two things about our company that's different from our competitors, not the known universe. I hate the game of how are we not the same? How are we different from 50 million other companies? Like, I'm not asking you to be. If you're hiring in Atlanta, how are you different from other Atlanta companies hiring similar people to you? If you're hiring project managers in biotech, how are you different from other biotechs hiring project managers? Find your competitive set and figure out how you're different. And when you find it, you've discovered your hook. Now, a hook's kind of magical. You could call it a frame. You could call it the reason for being, whatever that idea is. I'm going to call it hook just to keep it simple. It's the thing people remember, right? There's millions and millions of companies out there. What you want them to do is remember this one thing. You don't need them to remember that you offer world-class benefits just like 4,000 other companies. You want them to remember that you care about collaboration, okay? For example. So once you have the hook, you got to prove the hook, because we all know in many places, recruiters are seen as used car salespeople. What's it going to take to get you into this job, right? It's one of those things where it's like, oh, there's no credibility. And that's unfortunate because recruiters are wonderful at what they do. But is a hook conditional to the role of the generational? Oh, getting into generational stuff, Bill. Really? I'll get to you later. So how do you make that hook credible? Very simple. You make it specific, attractive, and different and real. What do I mean by that? So when I say specific, I don't mean we have a great culture, because obviously everybody says they do. I don't even mean we have a great collaborative culture, because what exactly does that mean? What I think of as collaborative and what you think of as collaborative is different. It's completely subjective. If instead I said, hey, we're a biotech and we care about collaboration because that's how we're going to succeed. And everybody who joins takes a one-day class on how to work better with other people from other functions. Because our entire company is predicated on an engineer who doesn't know anything about biochemistry, but is excellent at engineering, talking to a biochemist who doesn't know anything about engineering, but loves and is excellent at biochemistry, to work together to invent a future. Well, shoot, that's credible as hell. I buy that. That's super specific. Oh, I get it. You're not just saying it because it's a pretty word or because you stuck it on a poster somewhere. You're saying it because it supports your entire business, and you've shown me how much you invest in that idea. And obviously, anything a company spends money on is something it actually cares about. It's got to be attractive. So that means not everybody's going to care about collaboration, but the people who do, yeah, they want to learn more. It's got to be different. You got to be the only one talking about collaboration at this depth to make it work. If everybody's talking about collaboration, you're in trouble, right? If you're trying to be the best among many and you're like same as everybody else, but 5% better, all anybody heard was you're the same as everybody else. The job is to find what you're different at. And obviously, no bullshit. Stop lying to people. Make it real. The word, I'm having that moment. I'm blanking on the word. Where we aspire to being this thing. Yeah, you're right. That's another word for lie. That's another word for bullshit. Okay. So how do you make this real? You align all your recruiters and your hiring managers to this hook. Make them get. There's 100 things, positive things you could say about this company, about this job. But what I want you to focus on is this hook. Okay. Then every piece of communication that goes out, your social media, your career site, your job postings, your outreach messages, everything has to connect to or reference that hook. Why? Well, if a recruiter talks to a candidate about how great and collaborative they are, and the candidate's like, oh, that's really cool, I want collaboration, and the call ends and they hang up the phone, what's the first thing the candidate does? Goes to see if the recruiter's full of shit. And they go to the career site and they go to the job postings and they go to Glassdoor and they go to all the places to say, what's really going on? And if they don't see anything about collaboration, guess what? The recruiter was full of it. But if they see collaboration or whatever your hook is, everywhere they see, they have to go, they must mean this. This must be for real. Okay. And now you're playing a whole different level, right? Because most recruiters are not credible, and anything that creates credibility for a recruiter gives them a superpower. Then you go deeper. You got to find new ways to show that hook, right? You can say, hey, look at this integration between engineering and biochemistry. You can tell that story 10 times, but talk to your legal team. Are they collaborative? Not that you need to hire any lawyers anytime soon, but nobody expects the legal team to be collaborative. And if you show how this weird outlier team, even they are collaborative, they really must mean this. It just creates depth. Once you've embedded that hook, once you've really stuck it in, surround it with the rest of the stuff. Hey, we got a good salary. Hey, we got benefits. Hey, we got all this stuff, PTO and all this. The rest of the stuff, even if it is exactly like everybody else's. Because if you just show the stuff that's exactly like everybody else, you're not someone that anybody can choose. You're a coin flip at best. But if you start with that hook and people go, ooh, I like that hook, the rest of it's just supporting evidence. And that's incredibly powerful. So as I wind down to my 20-minute mark, when you influence the right people and you're giving them something they want and can see clearly and credibly, you get fewer applications, but more of the applications are people you actually want to hire. And this leads to more job acceptances. And by the way, I could talk about job acceptances for 10 minutes if that's what you're into. And that means less money spent on ads, less money spent on agencies, and get the time and resources to build pipelines that just makes the flywheel go faster. This is employer branding. Understanding your audience, giving them something that only they can get with you, making it believable, connecting it to the rest of the recruiting machinery, and driving the right kind of hires you want to hire. And the best part is when you just talk about employer branding this way, every company can do it. Every company, you're 20 people, so what? There's still something different about you. There's still an audience you want to talk to. There's still a kind of person you want to hire. Speak to it and communicate it. Do you need to buy a very complicated tech stack? No. Do you have one? Great, use that. But you don't have to buy one. Every single company can leverage this. Carlos asks, can a successful employer brand be a strong consumer brand? Oh, Carlos, how do I send you the $20? Because I love that question. Here is the reality. Most employer brands are sold as an employer brand that is completely separate from the rest of the company, that only the TA gets to use, which makes zero sense to me because there's just the one company, which means there's just the one brand, which means, and let's look at that. Every recruiter, if there are any recruiters on this conversation, if there are, hey, how you doing? You know, ultimately, what's better than a good outreach message is increasing stock price. That drives your pipeline way more than a great outreach message, right? And showing that everybody's making more money is like a magic superpower when it comes to recruiting. That means the investor relations message and brand is connected to the employer brand. And everybody knows if you've got a killer consumer brand right now, it's a lot easier to hire. Anybody want to work for Tesla this week? I wonder not. I bet Rivian's not having any problems. I bet OpenAI is not having any problems. Why? Because everybody knows the product. So they're all woven together. Now, what's amazing is they're not just driving the power of recruiting. It goes the other way. Ultimately, there's just one brand. It's like I think of it as like a prism or a crystal that I see through to look at candidates that consumer marketing sees through to see its buyers. Investor relations sees through it to see its institutional investors. Internal comms sees through it to see employees. And when one team does good work, it supports the rest. Because if I'm doing a great job explaining why this company is different, why people like working here, that's like giving the consumer marketing team a whole set of magical paintbrushes with which to paint. That is the human side of the company, not the product, not the features, not the service, the people. And most companies don't think about the people side of it. They think about the products. And here you are owning the people side. And if a marketing team doesn't know what to do with that, you need a better marketing team. Okay, good question though, Carlos. Thank you. So that's what I got. And I did it I answered a question, so that doesn't count to my 20 minutes. So I'm going to open the floor. That's what I wanted to say. Keep the questions coming. I'm going to scroll through. I saw a couple other questions come through, but I would love to hear what you think, what you thought. We can dive into an example if that's something that's useful, whatever you want to do. This is your time. Okay, so Bill asks, is a hook conditional to the role or generation you're looking to hire? I don't believe too highly in the generational stuff. Generation is really just the echo of the economy and expectations you were born into, or at least started working into. So yeah, are Gen Xers kind of similar? Kind of, but they not that different from boomers, not that different from Gen Y, not that different from Gen Z, right? They're not that different. Everybody wants similar stuff. They want to know what's the company doing? How are we doing it together? And what do we get when we get there? So I don't worry too much about the generation stuff, but the hook should connect just as much to the company as it does the team, as it does the role. So if you're doing great work here, you'll find ways to show how even the legal team can be collaborative, even the HR team can be collaborative. If you get real nitty gritty into it, the custodial services and facilities teams are being more collaborative. And that's a heck of a story to tell. Okay, Crystal asks, how many hooks should you have for one company? Should the legal team have a different one in the sales team? Here's what I would say. Try to keep it to one, maybe two hooks. We're all about this thing. So here, the company I did, and this is why collaboration is kind of in my brain. I did this recently. The brand is all about collaboration. And yeah, there's some teams that collaborate a lot more than others. But you can say, hey, legal team, they don't collaborate. But the work they do allows the other teams to collaborate better because that's what the company cares about. So there are ways of saying, because the problem is you don't want to try and say 20 things because when you say 20 things, no one remembers any of them. There's a lot of research, usually an email where they say, if you have one link at the bottom of that link, it's a high probability someone's going to click it. If you have 10 links, there's a low probability anyone clicks any of them. So keep it super focused. And honestly, if your company is so different that you have so many different hooks, you may be kind of wandering into some rarefied air, and this may not apply, but we can have a separate conversation about that. The job is to say, what is the hook for the company and how do we connect it to the larger picture? Because ultimately a candidate wants to know, what am I getting into? So the purpose of the hook isn't just to create difference for difference sake. It's there to help set the expectations for the candidate. What are you getting yourself into? Okay, so I'm scrolling through questions. I mentioned that we could integrate this into job offers. Oh, Bree, you're my new favorite person. Congratulations. I don't even remember Carlos. Forget him. I'm done with him. It's now all about Bree. Okay, here's the deal. When you embed your employer brand into everything you do, a couple of things happen. First, the job posting you put on Indeed or LinkedIn or God help you, ZipRecruiter, sure, okay, I guess if we got to do that, if the podcast told your boss you got to do it, I guess you got to do it. Oh, good, I got to laugh out of that. The outreach, the job posting, the ad talk about this hook. So what we know is anybody who clicks on that or responds to that, they want that thing. No one sees an ad that says, do you want more collaboration at work? And says, yes. But what they really mean is, no, I want more competitiveness. That makes no sense. No one clicks on the Honda ad and said, I want a sports car. Doesn't work that way. Go find a sports car brand. So you know that anybody clicking your ads or clicking your jobs or clicking your outreach, they want this thing that you prove over and over again through the entire candidate journey. It's in the conversations you have with the recruiters, the screening calls. It's in the interview question. You might even send an email halfway through the candidate experience saying, hey, just want to let you know, here's some more documents to show the kind of collaboration we do. And at the end of it, when you're ready to send the offer letter, the way most recruiters send the offer letter or hiring managers say, hey, we want to hire you. And they slide that metaphorical piece of paper across the table. This is how much the job pays. At which point, the entirety of the conversation is that number on the piece of paper. But if they clicked on an ad about collaboration, if they heard more about collaboration, if they talked about collaboration, and it comes to the offer letter, you say, hey, thanks so much for going through this process. No one likes the candidate experience. It's so hard on everybody. So I really appreciate you doing this. We know that you're really excited for the collaboration that we offer. And we know that because that's the thing you clicked, and that's what we've talked about this entire process. And hopefully, in the last 4, 5, 6 weeks, you've started to see what we mean by collaboration. You started to see how much we care about collaboration, and that you want that too, which is why you're still here having this conversation. And that's why we're super excited to sliding piece of paper across the table. At which point, you've changed the conversation about what's the number to what do you really want in your entirety of your job. Suddenly, the number is a part of the conversation, but it's not the conversation. And I have seen firsthand at companies like Groupon, which, let's be fair, not the coolest, sexiest companies to work at the time, have a 20% increase in offer acceptance rates just through that. Establishing the brand, proving the brand, and having just that couple of sentence offer at the point of making the offer. That's how you make a difference. So hopefully that answered Bree's question. I'm not going to get too far into Lexi's about how the hook can be different for corporate and field roles. It's really about finding a hook, right? It's not about the entirety of the job. The hook is not the job. The hook is not the company. The hook is a reason to learn more about the job. The hook is the reason to learn more about the company. So all you're doing, think of the hook like a trailer to a movie, right? There's a trailer. Oh, the Jennifer Lopez movie called Atlas, written by Netflix about how great AI is. Weird, huh? That's strange. Why would Netflix want us to care and like AI like it's a person? That's a separate conversation. The trailer is atrocious. Oh my God, this movie looks so bad. It would look like it was really written by a very old AI. It's got trope after trope after trope. This is not for me. Is that the movie? No, but it's enough of the movie for me to go, not for me. Thanks so much. That's what it's about. Because if you think about the law of big numbers, which by the way, talent is a game of big numbers, there's millions of people who could work for you. You're trying to find the people who are going to be the most successful. And that means showing them how you are different, showing them the way that the goal, the experience, the reward is different here because they want that thing. I have been in so many jobs where one job was great and one job was atrocious, but on the outside, the job posting, the experience of interviewing, they look the same. Because we've seemed to be trained that all jobs should sound and act kind of the same. And that's wrong. On a moral level, I want you to hire people who want exactly what you're offering. That's not a game of bait and switch. That is not a game of pretty pictures and make it look good. It's about, look, there's some good stuff here. Oh, and by the way, let's have a quick conversation about the other side of the good stuff. So let's say you got a great hook about collaboration and you go to Glassdoor and everybody talks about how things move somewhat slowly. Guess what? It might be a 2-star review, and you may think of it as, oh, it's a burn. It's not. It's actually evidence that you care about collaboration. It's not a poster. It's not a buzzword. It's not a tagline you slap on things. You care about collaboration because collaboration tends to equate to moving slightly slower. When I worked for Roku, we saw lots of reviews on Glassdoor and the like about how chaotic the company was. It's a nightmare to work for is something I saw multiple times. Things like, I don't even know what my boss is doing. I don't know what I'm expected to do. There's no regulations. There's no structures. There's no policies. The inmates are running the asylum. Now, based on that review, that sounds like a horrible place to work. Except I wrote responses that said, yeah, this is a company that cares about autonomy, meaning we hire people we know to be experts. And if you're an expert, why would we tell you what to do? So there's no policies, there's no regulations, there's no processes because we want you, the expert, to tell us what that is. And if that's not a great fit, we understand, and not everybody's going to like that. We hope you enjoy wherever you land. Now, I didn't turn a 2-star review into a 5-star review, but suddenly I have proof that things like, hey, we offer a lot of autonomy isn't just a nice thing to say. I've made that brand claim more 3-dimensional. I've used the shadow side of that brand, the negative side, the downside, to prove the positive. If Facebook just says we move fast and break things and ignored the fact that, well, it was chaotic as hell. If they said, yeah, we're really super easy, it's a really chill place to work, but we move fast and break things. That doesn't mean it. I don't understand that. How could that be possible? Goldman Sachs, we all know the stories about Goldman Sachs, how they work 100-hour work days or work weeks and they don't go home, and the junior analysts never go anywhere and they sleep in the bathtubs or whatever. I don't know what the heck. It sounds like a horrible place to work. If you said, come work for Goldman Sachs, you'll be a millionaire by the time you're 32, 9 to 5, you got plenty of work from home time. You would know that you are being lied to because that's impossible. You can use the downside, the shadow side, to prove the positive. All right, jump back to the question. So, how to emphasize the importance of leveraging an employer brand to support a company in the aftermath of challenge. Oh, I love these questions. Okay, what happens when shit happens to your company and you're like, okay, taking a drink of water. Narrating my own conversation, putting the glass down. Okay, someone laughed at that somewhere. I got one. Hold on, who was that? I got Amy. All right, these are improv jokes. Enjoy. The thing about an employer brand is that it's not pretty pictures. You are not being asked to be the cheerleader and picking up the pom-poms and give me a C, give me a U. What's that spell? Culture. Nobody knows what that means. No, that's not an employer brand. That's employer bland. If you say we care about collaboration and shit goes south and there's layoffs and there's bad things and the stock price goes down, why does that change your culture of collaboration? It doesn't. In fact, when things go bad, it's an opportunity to prove the stuff that you're saying. It's not about how nice you sound, it's about how real you sound. So, if you're talking about a company of innovation and you have to have a bunch of layoffs, you don't stop innovating. What you say is, look, this is a chance for us to regroup, understand what we're trying to do, what we're trying to achieve. We're applying new constraints to this kind of innovation, but we still have that same innovative spirit because we know we can make this work. You're not like denying what you used to say. You're simply saying context has changed and this is who we are. Everybody has a nice friend, right? Like a friend who's like super nice, like painfully nice. I married one once. That's a separate conversation. Don't ask. But everybody has one of those friends who's super, super nice. And they're not just super nice because it's Tuesday. And they're not just super nice because they've had their coffee. And they're not just super nice because, they took whatever happy pill they had to take, whatever. I don't know. But they're nice, and you think of them as nice because when the chips were down, they were still nice. The negative, the bad stuff made that claim more credible, more real, more honest, more understandable. So when things go south, that's not an opportunity to close up shop and say, oh, no employer brand, let's throw that away, put in the closet, let's pretend it never happened. It's about saying, okay, what is that authentic employer brand? The reason how we're different, how is that altered by this new context? And I think there's huge opportunities to dive into that. If I took a time machine to, let's say, I don't know, January 2020, to pick a time at random, lots of companies said how much they supported their people and how important it was to support their people. And then we scoot forward 4 months and we see how many of them actually cared about their employees and how many of them took furlough money and got the hell out of Dodge. Companies who treated their people poorly during COVID, it is a stain that they are going to have to wrestle with for a very long time because it made it crystal clear that what they were saying to the world and what they were really meaning were different. That's the opportunity here. If you care about people, you care about them when things are bad. That didn't change. All right. Do I recommend surveying current employees to understand what they feel the hook is? That is a great data point, but it is absolutely not the whole picture. In my process, and so by the way, full disclosure, I build employer brands for companies less than 2,000 people, and I build them in 3 weeks. Yes, I said 3 weeks. I didn't stutter. My process is really simple. I do a competitive audit of them and 3 or 4 other competitors. So I understand from the outside, which is how a candidate sees that stuff, what are they saying and how are they different? Because I want to see, like if you ever look at pharmaceutical employer brand sites or recruiting sites, they all say the same thing. We save lives, we innovate. Yeah, that's called being a pharma company. What's your problem? Oh, I stopped. My camera went away. Give me 1 second. Stop video. How do I show video? Let's see if I come back. I came back. Hey, I'm a real life boy. Okay. So I'm blanking on where I was. I was telling a story. We were talking about, oh, right.
Pharmaceutical companies.
Thank you. So and whoever that was, and for the mysterious voice who just spoke up, thank you. Thank you, Oz, Wizard of Oz. All pharmaceuticals say, we're saving lives and we innovate. That's what pharmaceuticals companies are. There are no pharmaceuticals companies trying to make life worse, and Sacklers don't count. We're not here to not innovate. Okay, I got to laugh on the Sackler joke. So this is my crowd. I love it. They're there to innovate. And when everybody sounds the same and everybody's clustered, if I map all the reasons what they're trying to say and they all cluster up, they all sound the same. How do you choose Merck over AstraZeneca? For the most part, they sound exactly the same. So your job is to figure out very quickly, compare to your competition, where are they clustered and where is their open blue ocean space. Then I do a focus group consisting of at least one recruiter, at least one hiring manager, at least one marketer, and a couple other people. And I ask them, not the standard question of, why do you like working here? Because nobody cares. Recruiters already know the answers to those questions. If you asked a good recruiter, can you list 100 reasons why someone should work here? The answer is yes, of course they can. The question isn't how can you find things? The question is how do you eliminate things? So the question in the focus group ultimately boils down to how are you different? And I have a couple of prompts that I run through to kind of get to distill that down. Then I take about a week and I take that information and I look at any other information around, hey, where's the company headed? We just had a big layoff, anything that kind of helps me give context to this idea. I take that information and in about a week, I write a 5 to 7 page strategic brief saying, this is what your brand is, this is how you're proving it, and this is how you communicate it out. That's what I do. So it doesn't take a lot of time. You can do surveys. I've used surveys in the past. Hey, every Jedi makes their own lightsaber. So everybody has their own model for doing this stuff. I'm not saying no to surveys. I'm saying not everybody does it the same way. All right. Zoe, starting from scratch, would you suggest building a stakeholder group to brainstorm and align the hook? So it aligns. Oh, wow. Okay, I did answer your question. Thank you, Zoe, for responding to your own question, because that was like a book I had to read, and I'm doing a bad job. Brandon asks in startup where a brand might not be the proven or consumer brand might not be asked. Okay, got it. Okay, what happens when you have no consumer brand? I get that. That's most companies, it turns out. Most companies are B2Bs or consultants that speak to small service agencies that only speak to small audiences. Having no consumer brand is not a problem. It's just part of the context in which you focus. So I've seen plenty of startups that actually focus on the employer brand. I did work for a company called Tradeshift. They're Swedish, but they had a big presence in San Francisco. Weird B2B API. Don't ask me. These are letters. I don't know. It's an alphabet XYZ element of P. I built an employer brand. They had a very tenuous consumer brand. I built the employer brand. They said that speaks not just to why people work here, but it's also why people should want to buy from us. They picked up the brand and they dropped it in marketing, and that became their consumer marketing. Because I got down to the core of what made that company different. And they say that's actually true for how we sell things. Let's use that. I've done that twice now. It's really crazy when that happens. When you watch the marketing team go, let's just use that. So you don't need a consumer brand to build on. If you have it, use it. I'm a big fan of being completely opportunistic. So whatever you have access to, use it, and don't lament the fact that you don't have access to something. Because I've met a lot of TA teams. I've met the Amazon TA team, and they all complain they don't have any money. To which I say, you have all my money. What's your problem? But everybody complains that nobody has enough money. So it's not about constraints. It's about what do you do with those constraints. All right. You guys are good at questions. Okay. Natalie asks, with employer branding, should we showcase our employer referral program? Employer referral programs are great. And it's not a but, it's an and. Using your employees as advocates on behalf of the company is absolutely 1000% the right way to go if you can. Some companies are in situations where they are evolving and changing. So who they were is not who they're going to be. And who they were, there's a lot of people who work there who still want it to be that old way. And the world is changing. And trying to build an insert employer brand in that space is really tough. You really have to have the will to say, this is not going to appeal internally, but it is going to shape the future of who we are. And you know that when you launch this, you are going to lose people because they're going to look at this and go, I don't want to be a part of that. And the answer is good. You were never going to fit in. So whether you leave now or whether you leave in 6 months is immaterial. So it should connect. So if you have a brand that you know employees can speak about, you absolutely use it. Employer referral program, which is what you actually asked, is a very tiny subset of advocacy. It is, are people willing to say, you should work here. You're my friend. You should work at this place. You'll be happy there too. Great, do that. I would say, don't get overly tied to the tool set, because there's a lot of ways to make employee referral programs work. And I'm not a big believer that it's the tool, it's the way you use the tool. Here's a handy trick I've used in other companies. So especially if they're bigger companies, how do you do employee referrals? January 2nd, you have an all hands meeting and the CEO says, hey, everybody, don't forget, we got an employee referral program. And if you refer somebody, we'll give you $1,000. Everybody goes, ooh, cool. I like $1,000. Yes, please. And they go back to their desks and they think, who would I know who should work here? Well, what kind of jobs are open? Oh, shoot. Now I got to go to the career site. Okay. Oh, I see some. You know what? Forget it. I'm going to go do my job. And anybody who remembers it on January 3rd is a miracle worker, because everybody's forgotten this stuff. I'm making sure I got time for this. If the moment the job goes live on your ATS and starts to get pushed out to all your job boards, the recruiter sends an email out to the hiring manager almost invariably, and it says, hey, your job is now live. You should share it. That's usually all they say. If they added to that, hey, copy and paste the following message to your team, Slack, email, don't care. And that email says, or that message says, hey, we're hiring an XYZ to help us do A, B, and C. If you know someone who is really good at whatever, 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 we'd like to talk to them. And if we hire them, you are going to get a bonus of $1,000. Here's what I need from you to do. Send this message to someone you think is great, have them blah, 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 and whatever your referral process is. It's not about the process. It's about reminding people at the moment you need them to remember. That's how you make a huge difference in your referral program. If you can then insert the hook, double points. All right. Last big question so far, unless people, oh, Natalie comes back. Everybody came back. So Jordy says, how do you handle the hook when your company is actively acquiring other companies? Okay. Don't think of the hook as just this thing that sits there. It's not the matzah in your soup. It is a definition and, in a certain way, a clarification of your DNA. Okay, you're not there. Your employer brand is not there to show how you look good in an Elton John costume, your Daffy Duck with all the spangles on it. You're there to say, who are you, right? Go back to the nice person example. The nice person is always nice. Your funny friend is always funny. You have a racist friend, and I hope you don't. That person's always racist, right? You always are that thing. So the hook is not about how is one little fun little story. It's about, no, you are that person. You are that company. So how much of that company is going to survive as you acquire people? It's an open question, but it's a conversation you should be having to say, look, we are focused on this. How much of this is going to survive as these new companies come in? It's a completely valid question. But of course, I have, that's so contextual and based on how many companies you're hiring and how big they are relative to you and all this other stuff. So I can't really answer it, but it's an absolutely valid question to have, so long as you're thinking about the employer brand as a distillation of your DNA and not some just nice words you stick on things. All right. Natalie comes back to employer referral programs. I know it works internally, but not sure how it helps externally. Oh, I mean, okay. Now we're getting to fun math. So obviously, if you have more people referring internally and the data says that the referrals are generally better hires, they're more likely to be hired, they're more likely to get interviewed, that means what you're doing is taking some of the burden off the recruiters to go source and or to go filter through the 14 pounds of resumes that just landed in their ATS. Right? That's the goal, to make the recruiter's job easier so they can focus on things that matter. And recruiters who are on this call can back me up on this. Your job is 80% just pushing paperwork and doing bullshit, right? You're just doing stuff that you're like, oh, I got to get into the ATS. I got to go filter through these things. I got to have these screening calls. It's just stuff. It's 10 to 20% of your time that is focused on strategic, impactful things. So anything you can do to help a recruiter spend more time on the strategic stuff, the meaningful stuff, and less on the pushing the papers around is a win. So that's just my 2 cents right there. Bill asked, who's Bill? Bill asks, once you have a brand defined outside of the basic website and job postings, how do you create awareness with the candidates you want to hire? Okay. The better you define that hook, the more the hook will find the people who need to hear it. So if you just say, hey, we're collaborative, and you stick it on a career site and that's all you say, you're toast. But if you have stories about how you're collaborative, if you tell stories about onboarding and how much you care and how much you do training on collaboration, if you show every single touch point you have out there, hey, we won this award because we're collaborative. Hey, our CFO is going to a conference to talk about blah, 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 blah. We hope that they show how the collaborative nature of our work allows us to build X, Y, and Z. You're just inserting it everywhere. At some point, someone who may be collaborative or may not be collaborative sees it and goes, oh, that's really interesting. Wow, this is really specific. This is really about collaboration a lot. You know who I know who's good at collaboration, really wants collaboration, and they pass it along. So you are using some of the viral strategy to say, look, we're not for everybody, but for the people who want this thing that we offer, they will find us because they have networks of their own who are passing stuff back to them to say, thought of you, bang, there you go. So you use viral influencing and viral strategies to make sure that message gets out to the people you want it to. Talk about yourself, not so much how you're a wonderful place to work, but how, there's a LinkedIn influencer who I kind of like, even though LinkedIn influencers are, okay. He talks about whenever you post on LinkedIn, your job is not to say something you mean. Your job is to surprise people with the twist. So you might say things like, hey, everybody knows employer brand is ABC, but what you don't know is read more. And there's this twist that you kind of say, hey, I'm going to change your perception. You could say, hey, everybody knows project managers are there to check the boxes. Well, that's almost always true, except in one place. Read more, click. This is a company that puts project managers and wants project managers to be the voice in the room. I actually worked at a company where that was the pitch. This idea that project managers can be the voice in the room, because that appeals to a very specific kind of project manager. And it's so weird to see that every project manager passed it around. It started conversations. So that's the trick. You want to find a hook that's different enough, but you explain it in a way that's interesting enough that triggers all the neurons in the brain to say, oh, what's going on? This is interesting. Ah, this is curious. This is unusual. I'm surprised. The same stuff you get, all the endorphins you get by scrolling TikTok, right? Ooh, there's a new video. Ooh, there's a new dance. Ooh, there's a new thing. That's the idea. How do you get people to say, oh, this is interesting? And the goal, and the way you do that is by being different and by being willing to be different. Because that whole list of all the employer branding stuff is true in 90 to 95% of employer brands. That's what they think they're supposed to do. So if you step up and you figure out how you're different and you communicate it incredibly clearly, incredibly directly, incredibly focused in a way that really makes it clear that not everybody wants this, but only a handful of people want this, they show up. I have so many stories I could tell about how that has happened. I know it sounds like fairy pixie dust you hope magically works. You're going to kick your heels together 3 times, but it's not. When you're crystal clear about what you want, people show up. So with that, I'm going to close up. So I give you back 5. I'm deigning to give you back 5 minutes of your own time. What a jerk am I? If you'd like to listen to or my podcast, I have lots of podcasts. If you want to read my newsletter, just scan the QR code or go to thechangeagent.news. Like I said, it's free. If you want to talk about how I can help your company build an employer brand labs, or just find me on LinkedIn. I'm a total loudmouth on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn and hate it at the same time. Yes, I know. But I would love to talk to you about how employer brand works. So with that, I'm going to pass it back to Bill and Nathan or Norman. And thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. James, thank you very much. This is a topic I could talk about all day. I love it. And I think it's
Not me.
mission critical to people making smart decisions, especially in a less defined market or a less defined companies. You know, when you think about the B2B and some of the smaller companies out there, the brand becomes really important because outside of what they're saying about themselves, sometimes it's really hard to know what you're stepping into.
Exactly.
And I also think the brand for me, some of the people I've talked to, sets a perception of what the day in a life is going to be there. So if I'm looking at 2 different companies for 2 different project manager roles, one has a phenomenal brand and one doesn't, my brain goes, I'm going to be happier in the brand company because
Yeah.
I've taken the time to at least identify. And I think that's mission critical.
All of recruiting starts when the candidate chooses to listen to you.
Yeah.
I can't, and that is a thing that recruiters don't hear, and they're not told that, and they try to ignore that, but it's true. Until someone chooses to listen to you, to click on a link, to hear your outreach, to hear your pitch, to go look at your job posting, you are dead in the water. So the goal is to give them a reason to choose to listen to you. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. Dead on. I love it. Well, on that impactful statement, ready for a fortune cookie at any moment. We will wrap things up. I really want to appreciate everybody. I really appreciate everybody coming. I love these events and I love to see the faces and talking about such meaningful topics. This one's near and dear to my heart. We got some great other speakers coming up in the next couple weeks. So thank you guys very much. I hope everyone has a great end of April. And if anyone needs anything from me or has any ideas, I've had a couple people reach out to me in chat about ideas around talk or these forums or things that you would like to see happen or not happen again. I'm here and I really love to interact and learn from all of you because the goal of talk is to create a community where we can engage and discuss meaningfully more topics just like this. So anything we can do to make that more available and attainable, please reach out, let me know. But thanks everybody. Great event. I was really excited. James, thank you very much. I think that was spot on and great discussion and I really enjoyed it. So thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.